Many people are listening to our stories, so we request those who haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. And to those who are already subscribed and listening, don't forget to hit the like button so others can discover and enjoy our episodes too. Now, let's get into the story. The year was 2019. At that time, along with my studies, I was practicing ruqya. You could say I was learning through experience. My teacher's name was Muhammad Salim Rahman, a senior man nearing 50 years of age. One afternoon, after finishing my studies, I was resting in my madrasa room when I was suddenly awakened by a knock at the door. I opened it to find Salim Huzur's assistant, Brother Usman. When I asked him why he came, he said Salim Huzur had called me urgently. He told me to get ready and go meet him. Following his instructions, I dressed in a clean Punjabi cap and pajama, freshened up, and headed to Salim Huzur's room. When I knocked, he asked, "Who is it?" I replied, "Muhaimin." He said, "Come in, son, come in." As I entered and greeted him with salam, he invited me to sit beside him and said, "Listen, son, we are going to do something today, but before that, I need to tell you a few things. Whatever you see, don't instantly believe it's true. Don't act out of emotion. Trust in your knowledge. Surrender yourself to Allah, and most importantly, never accept any gift or payment for your work. If you disobey this, you will stand accountable to me on the day of judgment." I replied, "Yes, Huzur," and asked what the task was. He said, "Let's get a rickshaw. I'll explain on the way." He hired a rickshaw on the road, and as we were on our way, he told me, "Listen, I don't know the full story. It's about a girl who's facing some sort of problem. For the past 10 to 12 days, her father has been showing up at the madrasa gate, pleading, but he wasn't asking for help with money, just for his daughter." The day before yesterday, Huzur said he finally called the man and asked him what was going on. The man explained that his daughter, Rima, was very sick and believed to be possessed by an evil jinn. When Huzur asked how he was so sure, the father said that at night a constant hissing sound like a snake comes from her room, yet no source for the sound has ever been found despite thorough searching. Every night, the girl is physically attacked on her hands, legs and back. When asked, she claims that the snake won't let her live. Huzur asked the father what exactly this snake was, but the man couldn't give a clear answer. He was practically begging, pleading at Huzur's feet to come and help. So we were on our way to see what was really happening. I told Huzur, "Come on, Ustad, a snake? Maybe the girl is just making excuses to avoid studying." Huzur immediately scolded me and told me to watch my words, as the girl had already completed her master's degree. I apologized and began thinking, maybe she's under pressure to get married and doesn't want to. Maybe she loves someone else. Maybe it's something else entirely. I really didn't know. I had no idea what was going on. But respecting Huzur's words, we finally reached our destination. Huzur called Rima's father, and about 5 to 7 minutes later he arrived and took us to their home. I swear the moment I stepped inside I felt a chill all over my body. My mind screamed at me, Ya Allah, Muhaymin, what kind of devil's den have you just entered? Rima's father welcomed Huzur and me into the house and had us sit on the sofa. He served us tea, biscuits and water, but Huzur strictly instructed me not to drink even a drop. Although this visibly saddened Rima's father, he assumed Huzur had his reasons and didn't press the matter. When we asked for permission to meet Rima, he took us to her room. Rima was already prepared, dressed in a full burqa, modest and covered. Huzur inspected her room, a bookshelf on the right, bed on the left, a study table behind, and a chair in front. There was a large window on the right wall and a balcony ahead. Everything seemed in place, yet the house felt strangely lifeless, as if no light entered it, like a curse lingered over it. Huzur sat in front of Rima, and she greeted him with a salam. He replied and signaled to me. I quietly instructed Rima's mother to gently hold her pinky finger. Huzur began murmuring verses under his breath. Within moments, Rima started growling and breathing heavily, but suddenly went completely calm. Huzur asked her, "What's your name?" Rima replied in a chilling tone, "Salim, you've heard many jinn names in your life. You don't need to know mine. Let's just chat." Both Huzur and I were stunned. Never before had we heard a jinn speak with such defiant boldness. Huzur asked, "What story?" Rima began, "Salim, I'll tell you everything. I hide nothing. I love playing with truth. But even if you know, you won't be able to do anything. I won't tell you my name. If you can, find it yourself. This girl is my beloved. Since childhood, she worshipped me. She had a doll. She used to draw pictures of me. She would use those to call me, to satisfy me. She kept pulling me toward her, so how will you stop me from coming? She won't be able to live or die on her own will. She'll die only when I allow it." Huzur, now stern, replied, "Who are you? Life and death are in Allah's hands. Who are you to decide?" When Huzur confronted the entity about life and death, the jinn responded in an enraged voice, "Silence," and declared that it did not believe in Allah and was against him. With that, Rima collapsed unconscious. Just before passing out, she said, "Everyone knows her as Sarvadev, the supreme deity." I stepped out of Rima's room and asked her parents how all of this began. Her mother explained that Rima had completed her master's degree the previous year. They were a middle-class family, and after her final exams, they began discussing her marriage. That's when things started to change. The night the proposal was brought up, Rima went to her mother's room, saying she couldn't sleep and kept hearing snake-like hissing sounds around her. Her mother went to check Rima's room and also heard the same hissing noise, though they couldn't locate its source. From that day on, Rima couldn't sleep. Whether day or night, whenever she tried, she had terrifying nightmares and would wake up screaming. These dreams terrified her so much that she stopped trying to sleep. They took her to doctors for full checkups, but nothing was found. The local mosque's imam was brought to speak with her, but strangely, after that visit, the imam disappeared and reportedly left his job for unknown reasons. Rima's parents had no further explanation. Hearing all this, I, Muhaymin, initially thought maybe she just didn't want to get married and was faking it. But her mother shattered my assumptions by explaining that Rima had a 2-year relationship with a senior from her university. Both families had spoken, and no one opposed the marriage, but fate had other plans. During the day, Rima would behave normally, but at night, it was like she didn't even recognize the boy. He would call them in tears, desperate to understand what was happening to Rima. Then, on the night the boy's family came to formally see Rima, he reportedly heard a strange hissing sound in his room, but his family didn't take it seriously. Later, the date for the engagement was fixed, but within the second week before the engagement, the boy fell ill with a fever and never recovered. The poor boy died just 2 days before the engagement. May Allah forgive him. Before his death, he claimed that the serpent had killed him with its venom. Meanwhile, my daughter keeps repeating, "The serpent, the serpent." We can neither get her married nor keep her safely at home. Huzur, she is our only child. We have no one else but her. Please help us. After hearing all this, we told Rima's mother to bring her to the women's madrasa the following Friday afternoon. As we were about to stand up, a thunderclap struck so violently that it shook our very souls. Just as we were leaving, a hissing sound and a creepy laugh came from Rima's room. The voice hissed like a snake, warning, "Be careful, be careful, the serpent is entering his wife's chamber." The way the girl was speaking sent chills down our spines. Huzur firmly said, "We'll see how great a serpent god you are." With that, we left the house. Sitting silently in the rickshaw, Huzur finally broke the silence and asked, "Muhaymin, what do you think?" I replied, "Huzur, I think this girl has fallen into the trap of something extremely dangerous. May Allah forgive us and help us all." On our way back to the madrasa, Huzur told me he would assign me some tasks and that I must carry them out with full focus. I nodded and stayed quiet. When we reached the madrasa gate, Huzur asked me to find the address of the local mosque's imam from Rima's area and meet him to learn exactly what was said between him and Rima. I agreed and went home to eat and sleep, but in the middle of the night I was jolted awake by the sound of hissing like a snake. I was stunned. What calamity was this now? As I started to get out of bed, I heard a voice in the wind whisper in my ear, "Stop, Salim, or the same fate will come to him as it did to the 12 before." I nearly lost consciousness. Just then, a knock at my door snapped me back to reality. I opened it to find Huzur standing there. He hurried into my room, shut the door, and said, "Muhaymin, things are far more complicated than they seem. There's more to this story. You must find out everything from the beginning." When I told Huzur about what had just happened, he said there were many hidden truths we didn't know, and he also confessed that just moments earlier, he too had heard hissing in his own room. That night I was so terrified I couldn't close my eyes even once. I know many will question how someone practicing ruqya like me could be so afraid. But unless you've witnessed what I did, you'll never truly understand fear. It's fine if people think I'm a coward. I know what I felt that night. Anyway, what was the real story behind Rima's life? What were we missing? To find that answer, I set out the next day. My first destination was the local mosque near Rima's home. Upon arriving and asking about the imam, I received information I hadn't come prepared for. I was told that the imam had died long ago after suffering from a 10 to 12-day fever, and that his death had even been announced publicly via loudspeaker in the area. He had a son named Miraj, who also died of the same fever about a month before his father. Shocked, I left the mosque and immediately called Huzur to tell him everything I had learned. Huzur responded, "Muhaymin, if they announced it publicly, then Rima's family must know. So why did they say the imam just left? They are hiding something. Go to their house and find out. Following Huzur's instructions, I went to Rima's house and, slightly frustrated, asked them, "How long will you keep lying? Don't you fear Allah? Don't you want to save your daughter?" I confronted them with the fact that the Imam, like Rima's fiancé, had died from the same fever, yet they claimed he simply left. They said nothing. Then I remembered the voice from the night before that warned me I'd end up like the previous 12. I decided to test something. I told them that 11 or 12 people like Huzur had already died in similar circumstances. Didn't you know? At that, Rima's father looked stunned and said, "How do you know that?" That confirmed my suspicion. We were not facing an ordinary evil. We were fighting death itself. I silently prayed, "Ya Allah, if death is written at the hands of this devil, then forgive us, have mercy." Rima's father then asked me to sit on their sofa. Rima's father finally agreed to tell me the full story. One by one, he began naming each victim and explaining how they had died. As I listened, chills ran down my spine. Have you ever heard of someone not being able to perform ruqya despite wanting to? That's how terrifying this was. Here is the dreadful account Rima's father shared with me. Victim 1. The local mosque's Imam Muhammad Aziz. On the day the Imam first met Rima, he sat her down and began talking to her. As soon as the entity Sarpedev manifested in her, a heated exchange took place between them. Eventually, the Imam decided he would perform ruqya on Rima and told us he'd do it 3 days later. But the jinn warned him not to make any preparations for the ruqya, or else he would lose the thing he loved most. The next morning when I went to the mosque to speak to the Imam, I was told he had gone home because his son had suddenly fallen critically ill. He never returned. A month and a half later, we heard the news of his death. When that announcement was made over the mosque loudspeaker, I could hear sharp, eerie laughter coming from Rima's room. Upon hearing the Imam had died, Rima said, "One down, now the next one's turn." Victim 2. A tantric named Ramendra Chandra Pal. Since we learned the entity might be from another religion, we turned to a Hindu practitioner. I got his address from a Hindu colleague. His place was always crowded, and people claimed he had never failed in his rituals. Amid all the people, he somehow singled out my daughter and said, "Child, who is this being with you? This is a deity. We must perform a 7-day yajna." He seated Rima before him and, striking her waist with a cane, Rima growled like a tiger and thundered, "Ramen, how dare you touch my wife? You want to do a yajna? Prepare yourself. I'll see what power you really have." The tantric laughed and dismissed the demon's threats. He asked us to return 3 days later for the ritual. When we returned, the tantric tried to speak to the spirit again. As he summoned it, the spirit said, "Ramen, your phone is ringing, go pick it up." As soon as he heard that, the tantric jumped up from his seat and ran off. A little while later, we learned that Ramen's pregnant wife had drowned in a pond. After waiting about 15 to 20 days, we returned to Ramen's ashram, where he tearfully pleaded, "Brother, please forgive me. Battling this entity is not my destiny. I can't do it." He was coughing like a man with tuberculosis. We later heard that Ramen had been suffering from a high fever for several days. About a week later, my colleague informed me that Ramen the Tantric had died. I thought to myself, this is a massive calamity. Where do I go now? Whom do I turn to? Meanwhile, my daughter's body was covered in marks of abuse. She couldn't sleep. She would die like this. What should we do? In this desperate state, I came across a scholar named Huzur Mushfikur Islam. He treated patients in a large room in his own house. When we took my daughter there, he whispered something into her ear and blew gently. A woman then came and held Rima's hand. Huzur instructed that the connection should not be broken. Suddenly, my daughter began hitting herself violently, so hard that her cheeks split open and started bleeding. Still, Huzur didn't stop and continued speaking to the spirit. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Sarpadev," the entity replied. "I am Mushfikur," said Huzur. "Yes, I know, I didn't ask for your name. I asked who you are. If you cross the line, I'll kill the girl right now, you'll see." As he said this, Rima kept beating herself over and over. Huzur then asked, "What do you want?" The entity demanded 7 kilos of sweets, 7 kilos of rice, and a sacrificial goat in return for leaving Rima's body. After some bargaining, we felt slightly relieved, thinking the end was near. 2 days later, I went to the market and bought the goat. But when I brought it to Huzur, I was told he had suddenly fallen severely ill with a strange fever. My throat dried up in panic. What was happening? Had the spirit tricked us? Returning home, I heard Rima laughing from her room, saying there were so many Ruqya experts there if they had managed to drive me away. But I was clever. I said I'd leave and use that chance to finish Mushfiq. I didn't need any more confirmation of what fate had befallen Huzur Mushfikur. I never followed up. I already knew what had happened. That evening, in a fit of rage, I slapped Rima hard and asked what she wanted. The spirit answered, "I want Rima. I will never let her go." At that point, I told Rima's father, "Stop right here." I told Rima's father I didn't want to hear about any more deaths. He responded that he just wanted to share one final incident. When I gave him permission, he began. He said he couldn't recall the man's name, but he was a Marma, an indigenous man. Rima had once held his daughter during a university exam as a volunteer, and since then the man had grown fond of Rima. His daughter used to call Rima Apu, and he would often call me to check on our well-being. One day he called and said, "Brother, I saw your daughter recently. She looked like she was going somewhere. What's happened to her?" Unable to hold back tears, I told him everything. He then told me about a traditional healer in the Marma community who helped people for only 2 taka. Seeing a sliver of hope, we took Rima there. The healer lived about 2 kilometers from the Marma man's house, but it took us 3 hours to get there. Why? Because as soon as we set out, the entire village was shrouded in black clouds, and it poured heavily with violent winds. It felt like the car would flip over any moment. Inside the car, Rima kept laughing and said, "If you take me there, worse things will happen." Eventually we arrived at the healer's home. The moment he entered the empty room, Rima spat on him and laughed, saying, "Here, I've poisoned you, now die." The healer asked us to leave immediately. 10 minutes later, he returned and told us never to call him again or return. This was not his battle, nor anyone else's in that village. On the way back, the Marma man looked at Rima and said, "I curse you. You're tormenting this girl. You'll be destroyed." Rima replied, "Oh really? Let's see who gets destroyed." When we reached his house, he said, "Brother, tomorrow I'll take her to someone else." Hearing this, Rima grabbed him by the throat and said, "You won't stop? Then I'll stop you." The next morning, we found the Marma man writhing in a fever. He told us to leave for now and promised to call when he recovered. We returned home. A few days later, we called the Marma man, only to find out that he too had passed away. Hearing all of this from Rima's father left my throat dry with fear. Meanwhile, Selim Huzur decided to go to Rima's house to perform the ruqya. I tried to stop him, warning, "Huzur, please don't do this. There's still so much we don't understand." But he scolded me, saying, "Fool, is this what I've taught you? To be a coward? Don't you trust Allah? You don't need to come. I'll do the ruqya alone. Leave now." I couldn't stop him, and I still regret that. Maybe if I had, things would have been different. That ruqya turned out to be the last of Huzur's life. What happened that day, and why I sometimes feel like wishing for my own life, you'll soon understand. We're not at the end yet. In fact, we're only halfway. Listen closely. Huzur began the ruqya with holy water and his spiritual tools. Rima's parents and I had to hold her down because she became uncontrollably agitated the moment she saw him. As the ruqya began and Huzur recited verses, Rima writhed in pain. Huzur nearly defeated the spirit when it suddenly cried out, "Stop, Selim, stop! I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving, but I won't stop." Huzur declared he would either trap the spirit in a bottle or destroy it entirely. At this, the spirit pleaded for mercy and said it was leaving. I haven't described the details of that ruqya session because they're so disturbing they might overwhelm your nerves. After it was over, I examined Rima and returned to the madrasa. The next morning, I got a call from Rima's father. "Brother Muhaimin, Rima is acting crazy again." The phone slipped from my hand. I ran to Huzur's room and found him shaking with fever. Ya Allah, what was this? Had the jinn tricked us again? May Allah forgive us. In anger and despair, I rushed to Rima's house. What drove me to wish for my own life and my greatest mistake was going to Rima's room, grabbing her hand in anger and demanding, "How many lives will you take? Who are you? Tell me your name. I won't let you go." With a gesture from Lima, I brought my ear close to her mouth, and a snake-like hiss whispered, "May your wish be fulfilled. You won't free me. I have taken the precious gem of your life. Now find me. I will keep you alive because you will tell people who I am and remember me, the serpent god." Then she fainted. With a heavy heart, I left the room and returned to the madrasa. 15 days passed without a single night free from the sound of snakes hissing. I heard it every night, unable to sleep. May Allah have mercy. After 18 days, Selim Huzur died. Before passing, he told me that a friend of his was at the Alia Madrasa and I should go to him, reveal everything, and seek his help. 7 days after Huzur's death, I went to my village, overwhelmed with mental anguish. Meanwhile, my wife was pregnant. One afternoon, while she was walking from the kitchen toward the veranda, a cobla's attack took her and our unborn child from me. Brother, I am not crying, not even a tear. Even 10 to 15 days after their deaths, I still hear the snakes hiss at night. I have taken the precious gem of your life. Now I hear it every night and cannot sleep. Who is left for me? Sometimes I think death would be a relief. But no, I fought. The person I came to meet today, I had met him back in 2019 as well. I am searching for a way to defeat the serpent god. COVID delayed progress, but after it ended, we began a new battle with Rima. Want to know what happened? Listen closely, dear listeners. The next part of Sabit ala Muhaimin's story is so terrifying and heart-wrenching that I cannot include it here without risking severe stress to you. Please forgive me. You will hear the rest of Muhaimin Huzu's story again soon. Was he able to save Rima? If she survived, did the serpent god finally leave her? Since Muhaimin is still searching for the serpent god, or did the serpent god flee after Rima's death? What do you think?